Everybody on the phone this evening, welcome to our webinar about Washington, D.C. Tonight I have the awesome opportunity to introduce you to our panelists. We have Teresa and Lindsay, both from Destination D.C., and we also have Roxana and Lori from two of my favorite museums in D.C., the Museum and the Spy Museum. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. We're excited about being here.
Awesome. Well, we have a lot of information to cover tonight, and I want to start because I understand that there are a ton of new developments happening currently in the city. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what's new and upcoming?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're very happy to talk about it. We don't have all night, but we're going to try to cover as much as we can. Washington, D.C., if many of you haven't been to Washington, D.C. in a while, or even just in the past couple of years, sees, just like many cities, a really great renaissance. We are in the tail end of an $11.5 billion investment into the city, and predominantly it's obviously to drive people into the city itself. I've been living in D.C. for 16 years, and when I first moved here, there was about 360,000 people that lived in this very small town, is what I like to call it. And as of last month, we have over 720,000 residents in Washington, D.C. now. So that is a tremendous growth. And a lot of that is because of the development that is happening in the city itself. In order to do that, you got to build infrastructure in order to support that. But obviously, because of all the fabulous assets that we currently have, we're even adding on more, which makes it more attractive for more museums and hotels to move into the city. So we are very excited to present what DC really is offering now. A couple years ago, we were nominated the coolest city in America, and 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't be able to say that about DC, but now we're very proud to be part of the cool crowd, the people that are sitting here at the table. And if you hit to the next slide, we can kind of talk about some of the new infrastructure that's actually happening right now. In the next 18 to 24 months, we will be bringing online about 4,100 new hotel rooms. And what's really great about this is not only is it some of our big, 4- and 5-star properties, but we are starting to see a surge in limited service properties and micro hotels. And so that's the new buzzword right now. And what that means is because the generation's starting to get younger, millennials are starting to move into the city, they're not spending a ton of time in hotel rooms. Basically, they're there to take a shower and to rest and then to move on and really dive into communities. The hotels are starting to adjust to that. They're becoming more communal. More activities are happening to where they're not only engaging the people that are inside the hotels, but also connecting them into the community itself. And so those are really new opportunities for, obviously, for some of your groups. So instead of staying outside the city, to kind of move into the city a little bit so you can take advantage of your itineraries, which we will be talking about sometime today. We are also proud to announce in our next slide is our newest neighborhood that's happening in Washington, D.C., which is called The Wharf. D.C., if you all don't know really what it looks like, is we're shaped like a diamond and we're surrounded by the states of Maryland and Virginia. But what connects all of us is waterways. And what's been really interesting since the inception and design of Washington, D.C. is we've never really taken advantage of our waterways and really built up. And so the Wharf is the answer to part of the infrastructure that we're building in the city now. There will be 3 phases of the Wharf. The first phase is opened. It opened last year, and it brought online 3 new hotels. We've got about 20 restaurants, which many of them are group friendly. So we're very excited about having some new products that will be there, as well as really maximizing outdoor space and really making people enjoy the community. So there's performances down there. As you see in this picture and in the next pictures, if you want to click to the next slide, we're really utilizing the waterways through water taxis. And so instead of getting on a bus, hop on a boat and take it to Georgetown or over to Virginia or to Maryland and really connect your itineraries together, which we can help build. But you can see how beautiful the waterfront is now. And again, this is just phase 1 of the next 2 phases that are going to be coming online in 2020 and 2022. So we're very excited to be introducing that. In addition to building new neighborhoods and really building places for people to live is some of the infrastructure that we currently have that's growing. And so obviously one of our crown jewels is the Kennedy Center. Many of you all will go to free performances that they have there every night at 6 o'clock, or have seen something or done a tour of the Kennedy Center. They are now, as of in 2019, which is going to be next year, adding on their expansion, and which is going to be called The Reach. And what's fabulous about this is it is outdoor amphitheater, so there'll be more opportunities for outdoor performances, evening activities, but they also have the learning centers, which you can see in this picture, is that they're really trying to start to engage people and really inspire young people on how to get involved in performing arts, whether it's for music or dance or just regular theater. And so they're going to be bringing programming onto the students that are going to be here. So this is really a wonderful project that we're excited to be presenting with the Kennedy Center. The next slide is just introducing some of our new museums that are also coming on board, in addition to the plethora of everything else that we have, just to make it more complicated to fit everything into 1 week. We will be opening the National Law Enforcement Museum, which will be opening in the next couple of months. This really kind of dives into all law enforcement on how they work together and their strategies. Many years ago, we had a children's museum, and this is now being redesigned and opening up in 2019. This is going to be a fabulous museum, really kind of highlighting how you can inspire children, young children, all the way up to students through touch, taste, sound, and really kind of get them more engaged than just talking at them, and really trying to teach them how to learn, that they learn on their own. So this is going to be a spectacular museum. It's going to be done by the designers over in many of the Chicago museums over there. So the content is going to be absolutely fabulous. Glenstone, which is out in Virginia, this is another outdoor project that will be wonderful for, a great to do lunches or some activities on the outdoors. It's absolutely spectacular facility. And then in 2020, we're going to be opening up a new museum in the heart of Washington, D.C. At one of our Franklin schools, one of the most beautiful buildings in Washington, D.C. called Planet Word. And what this museum is going to be fabulous for student groups, because it's all about how to communicate through language. Rather it's, through social media, through any kind of the components of really kind of how people are communicating moving forward in the future with all different kinds of cultures. And so it'll be more internationally driven. And so they will be having workshops on really how to identify and make people really understand how important the words are that you're using, and how to really kind of communicate. So we're very excited about diving a little bit deeper into what the next generations actually have to offer.
Wow, you are right. There are a lot of cool things to do in the city. With so much to do, it's hard to include everything in your itinerary. So what are the top 5 things in DC that we think that we can't miss?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a stab at that. Hi, I'm Lindsay. So I first would say that I'm from Indiana, and coming from Indiana to DC, when I got here, I was just blown away by all of the different types of food that I could try here. I had never had sushi. I never had Ethiopian. So I would definitely make sure that you're exploring what restaurants DC has to offer. In the last few years, we've really grown and exploded in our food market. And like I said, any type of cuisine that you want to try, you can try here in the city, and it will be fabulous. A lot of these options are group friendly, large groups, small groups, whatever you're looking for. I would encourage you to check out our washington.org/groups webpage. And besides the dining options, this also can give you some tips on where to take your group, what kinds of experiences, workshops, etc. you can do with your group, as well as where to stay. Anything that you need for your itineraries, you should be able to find on this website, and if not, then you can always reach out to me directly, and I can help you with anything we may have missed, but hopefully you can find it all there. The next topic that I think definitely you should do with your groups and really think about is to participate in our sports scene. A lot of people don't know that we have a pro sport team in every single one of the areas. So anything that you want to do or experience, again, we have here in Washington, D.C. So our new Audi field just opened past July. That's our DC United
Awesome. Lori, Roxanne, Anna, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I think we're very fortunate to have wonderful museums as well as monuments and memorials in DC. If you have limited time, I would highly recommend the Martin Luther King Memorial, as well as the Korean Veterans Memorial. It's one of my favorites. It's located next to the Lincoln Memorial, and it depicts 19 soldiers, and the expressions on their faces are just incredible. Another place I recommend is the National Museum of American Indians, where you learn, of course, about the different cultures of Native Americans, and the food is fantastic. Highly recommend it.
And I talked to Roxanne, the fry bread there at the museum is amazing. I highly recommend it. But I'll add on, the monuments are wonderful during the day, but I think seeing them at night brings a new perspective, and it's a little bit more deep. It reaches your emotions a little bit more. Also, there are less crowds in the evening. So I would say see the monuments at night. And then another great thing is if you can catch a baseball game, the Nats are a great team.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And what's really great is for most of the Smithsonian, all the Smithsonian museums and all the mines memorials are free of charge. As you can see on the slide, we have over 100 almost free things to do in the city, which really helps when you're looking at what to do with the groups and maximizing your budget.
Great. Well, Teresa, we have two particular museums that we have here represented today. I know you're passionate about this, so I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm so excited to have Roxana and Lori here. They have been with their communities for quite some time, and it's been fun to watch them grow. I remember when the Spy Museum opened up. I remember when the museum opened up. Not that I'm dating myself, but just saying that. But what you all know, and when you click to the next slide, is that a lot of the groups that come in, you all have been doing the same itineraries over and over again, and I think it's time now to start, now that generations and the things that kids need and students really need is to start to get engaged. And with workshops and really kind of, they want to be part of something. And we're starting to see that not just with all our domestic groups, but we're also seeing this on the international side as well when we're having conversations, rather through STEM or workshops, and really kind of, engaging with, more in-depth content. And, the museums that we have over 90 museums and art galleries. Art has been the big scene that a lot of people have really started to act, or a lot of schools have been starting to put into curriculums. Obviously, that we've got 17 Smithsonian museums. All of them are free of charge, with our newest, the African American History Museum, which is absolutely spectacular to come in. And then, of course, you can't forget the National Zoo, and everyone, knows that, animals just aren't for kids, but they do a ton of programming when it comes to the National Zoo, and very world renowned. So we're super excited about that. But what I do want to talk about a little bit more, because we do have two museums that are in Washington, D.C. We've got the International Spy Museum and the Newseum. And when I talk about content and what you really can bring differently to the table, especially for all the World Strides folks, as you guys are developing itineraries, you're presenting this to students, you're presenting it to the parents, and they just want to know what more are their kids going to learn. And I want to introduce Lori to talk a little bit about what's so exciting about the International Spy Museum and how that can tie into some of the core curriculum.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. We are getting ready to actually transition to our new location, which you can see on this slide. We are anticipating an opening in early summer of 2019. And the big change for us is the location, number one. We're a block and a half away from the Air and Space Museum, which then is only a block and a half away from the new wharf development. So we're smack dab in between the two. So easily you can walk to either one of those destinations. But with the museum itself, we're going to actually take a deeper look into not only the cycle, but the world of intelligence, and how it's really played a major role, espionage that is, on not just the United States, but on an international and global level, and how it's affected the affairs of the world. And with that, we're going to be doing that through interactive experiences and interactive learning. The new museum is also going to have a full learning center for classes designed from ages 4 through 12. all the way into college age. And then, of course, we're going to have a temporary exhibit space that will be transitioning and changing out regularly to bring a fresh new exhibit into the museum on a regular basis. But we are definitely looking forward to this new room.
Yeah, and it's exciting how appropriate is it happening now in this day and age. Anytime that you're turning on the news, it always seems like, you're talking about espionage or spy or whatever that is at this moment. So it's, kind of relevant. It's not just, about James Bond anymore. It really is something that, has obviously been happening in the world. And so it's nice to, and it's really cool to see how people are getting engaged and really understanding how intricate this particular field, let's just call that, as it is.
Yeah, we're going to show how it's affected world history from ancient times all the way through present time, like we're talking about.
Yeah, and any one of us could be a spy, just so you know. You never know. I just never know.
At least a quiet one.
At least a quiet one. Although that rules all of us out. Another museum that has also been, one of our pride and joys in Washington, D.C. has been the Newsam, and this is one of the most spectacular structurally buildings that is in Washington, D.C., but what's even more special is the content that is in the Newsam and how it can be presented to the students. So, Roxana, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Newsam?
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. The Newsam is an interactive museum of news dedicated to promoting the importance of the First Amendment. We have 15 galleries, 15 theaters, and over 100 interactive activities throughout the museum with technologies and powerful artifacts in all our galleries. We teach visitors about important events in history. It's also very interactive. We have an interactive newsroom where visitors can experience what it's like to be a journalist or what it's like to be a reporter or a photographer. So it's very interactive. We also offer classes for educators as well as for students on site and online. So it's a very, very unique experience in DC.
Great. We're going to go there because we're going to learn how to have our own talk show now that we're set up kind of like a talk show.
We are. Awesome talk.
Our own show. We're just going to think about the name right now, but we're going to be working on that.
I will watch it daily. So, thank you both, Roxana and Lori, for talking about those museums. They really are, like Teresa said, completely relevant right now. I mean, both the news and espionage, very relevant. The audience for today's webinar have a huge focus on performance opportunities. So I know we have a little bit more time, so I was hoping we can touch on some different performance opportunities throughout the city.
Absolutely. We have really wonderful opportunities for groups to perform and have organic audiences listen. Two here that I have just picked out due to being able to do larger groups. Monuments and memorials are absolutely the most iconic place that your students can perform, really once in a lifetime experience. You can have them sing on in front of Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, or World War II, among others. It's a very easy permit process with the National Park Service, and really, again, like, where else would you want to perform in DC but at one of the memorials? And then secondly is the Union Station, again, an iconic building, very historic, and a hub of transportation for the city, so there would be lots of people moving back and forth, and again, can hold a larger orchestra or choir. For your smaller groups, we also have opportunities at Ford Theater, Mount Vernon. As Teresa mentioned, the Kennedy Center will have some more opportunities coming on board. Arena Stage as well. And, really, if you reach out and have something specific, we can really try to hook you up and see if that is an opportunity that is available.
Excellent. Also in DC, I know that, the Cherry Blossom Festival, there are things happening throughout the spring that our groups may be interested in. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, and some of you may have already had groups participate in the National Cherry Blossom Festival Parade that occurs usually the last weekend of the festival, but the festival is 4 weeks long where people can participate and learn about Japanese culture. Passport DC is also an excellent opportunity to learn about culture, music, and dance and arts. This is when our embassies open up their doors. We have close to 200 embassies in the city, and a couple dozen participate in this weekend, and it's a free opportunity for the countries really to showcase what they do and to travel the world in a day, essentially. So it's a really unique opportunity here in the city.
Wow. Well, that is a lot of information. So I want to ask for your top 5 hot tips for the people on the phone, that things that they should take away from this webinar and put into action.
Sure thing. So yeah, these are Lindsay's hot tips just for Wild Strides today.
Awesome.
Very first and most importantly is making sure that your itinerary is planned efficiently to maximize your time. One of the biggest things would be to make sure that you are clustering your activities. Again, the city can seem very large, but really when you look at it closely, things are very close to each other. So, for example, the U.S. Capitol is walking distance to the museum. Then you can also then walk to the Air and Space Museum, on to Spy, and then down to the wharf, and never once have to get on your bus. Then you can just hop on a water taxi, and if you're staying in Georgetown or down in Old Town Alexandria or want to eat dinner there, again, easily can get down there again and never need to use the bus. So one would be to make sure that you're clustering your activities so that they're close together. To use different modes of transportation. Walking is a great joy here in the city, and we're a very walkable city with big sidewalks. And then using the metro system as well, that is our subway, which is, again, very easy, and you can get group passes in advance. And the water taxi is a huge plus for us now that that is operational. I did also want to mention in terms of the itinerary, and one of the questions being, how do you choose what to include in the itinerary? A lot of the itinerary can be subject-based, based off of what you want them to learn, and we have itineraries sort of in the process where you can, if you want to learn more about art and music, we can give you tips on which museums and monuments and tours would best fit that subject. Also, I would make sure, especially for this group, to include a theater performance. Outside of New York City, Washington, D.C. has the most theater seats in the country, from small theaters all the way up to the Kennedy Center and traveling Broadway shows, which would be great for your orchestras and choirs to participate in. We're actually premiering Beetlejuice the Musical this October at the National Theater. So, sometimes the groups will say, I saw it before in New York, and that's really cool. Another huge point of interest is, how do I get my group through security in an efficient and seamless way? The biggest tip there would be just to minimize the amount of things that the students are carrying with them. Limit size of bags and limit just what they have on them. If they can bring no bags at all, that is great. A lot of museums have no bag lines to help get the groups in quicker. The biggest note is the U.S. Capitol does not allow any liquids, not even water. So at that point, to make sure no one is upset that they have to throw away a really nice water bottle, and make sure that those are left outside before getting into that area. And I actually would love for Lori and Roxana to talk about how they partner with other establishments in the city to help make itineraries easier. So, you want to go first?
Well, at the museum, we actually offer resources for teachers and educators so they can prepare the events for the group visit, and so they can take advantage of everything that we have to offer at the museum and all the learning opportunities.
You can go on the website of most museums, and they all do have free downloadable information for educators to pull prior to their visit, so they can help build that into the itinerary and what they want the students to really get out of it. But you can also call a lot of us and reach out directly, because we partner with other people. So, for example, at the Spy Museum, I can partner with some lunch operators or some lunch partners and actually have your group come and go through the museum, do an educational class, but actually I can have lunch delivered to the museum. So you don't have to go to 3 different venues, again, with a bus, and you can save the driver hours, and you can marry it all in together, where you can do all 3 within 2 hours. So a lot of people can partner together. Just reach out now.
And the last off what educational experiences, things you can get from the website resources, there are also unique one workshop or docent tour or something that can really help hit home with the students, and they'll have those memories for the rest of their lives. So based off of, you who are listening today, I picked out just a few that you might be the most interested in. The first being the Marine Corps Barracks. Every Friday night during the spring and summer has a parade, and this really is where the musicians perform. There's also the silent gun salute that they do, which is really spectacular. The U.S. Army Band also does a workshop that you can request. And Camp Shakespeare, that's part of the Shakespeare Theater Company. There are local, regional Tony Award-winning theater. And besides the camps that they offer, they have very specific either talkbacks or classrooms that you can do before or after a show to really make sure that the students understand what the play is about, how to understand that Shakespearean language before seeing a show. The last little bit I'll go through before I want to throw it over to our friends. The Library of Congress, it might be a surprising one for me to include here, but if you've never been in it, you would simply be blown away the second you walk in. The entire building is its own piece of art, and throughout the building is little nods to musicians and artists and everything art related. And if you take a docent tour, they can help you find those specific music pieces that you can showcase to your student group. And Lori and Roxanna, you already mentioned that you have opportunities, but you want to just dive a little deeper into what you offer.
Like I mentioned, my museum offers a plethora of workshops and classes. They're all hands-on, interactive experiences. And that's the key with youth these days, is you really want to get them involved instead of just doing a lecture. So with these classes designed from all the way from 4th grade all the way up to high school and college-age students, we offer 45-minute to 60-minute classes. So it's not a lengthy time for them to be in the classroom, but some of them range anywhere from learning world politics and world history through what we call the Cuban Missile Crisis simulation, where they're learning about what happened during that time period. We also offer a great forensics class where they get to play the detective and they have to solve a case using forensics equipment. So definitely a unique experience for those student groups.
And our classes at the museum are at no additional cost, and they are designed to engage students in conversations about what's happening in the world right now and talk about issues in history. They're also very interactive, and we, in addition to offering them on site, we also offer virtual classes for those schools who can't make it to the museum. Some of them are about the First Amendment, civil rights movement. We have a class on the state of the news, which is about the evolution of news and how technology affects communication. So yeah, they're very popular. Also, the students love it because they're very interactive, and it gives the idea of helping students to become better thinkers, working with teachers. I think if you're in the tourism industry, we're all educators. Yeah. Agreed.
Absolutely. And speaking of educators, I know Washington, D.C. is home to a lot of universities, which is extremely appealing for a lot of the high school music directors on the phone to be able to show their students. Lindsay, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're very lucky to have 21 institutions of higher learning in the D.C. region, including Virginia and Maryland. And these are all prestigious, high-ranking universities, and a lot of them are very historic as well. So all of the universities that I have highlighted here, and then many, many more, can provide campus tours for student groups, or even with enough advances to potentially have a professor talk with the group or have them sit in on a lecture. So this is a great opportunity to really show what their future can look like. Yeah.
What college really is.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, when are we going to D.C.? Come on. I'm ready. I don't know if a week is long enough. You four are outstanding. I feel so well informed. We are right out of time. I know we could probably talk for an hour longer, but this has been amazing. You are wonderful. To all of those on the phone, thank you for listening. If you have any further questions, please feel free to email us. We have access to these wonderful panelists, and they, like Lindsay said, they will be able to answer any of your questions, and we'd be happy to pass them along. So thank you again, everyone. This was really great. I can't wait for your talk show. And I will see you all in DC very soon.
Great.
Thank you so much.